welcome to tonight's episode of Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel, and as always, I have a very special guest for you, Suzette Morales, Rutherford Esquire. She'll be with us for the next 30 minutes, so stay with us. You're watching Beyond Focus TV.
Beyond Focus TV allows you to discuss contemporary topics affecting the Caribbean people on both a national and local level. The show features informed guests who offer insight, debate, and evaluate various issues. Beyond Focus TV builds on the station's mission to provide useful information to the Caribbean people in New York and abroad. Beyond Focus TV, where our viewing audience can get educated, informed, and empowered.
Welcome back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel. And like I said, I have a very special guest for you. An amazing attorney is in the house tonight, guys, so it's going to be super informative. Suzette Morales, Rutherford Esquire. Of course, you got to say the full thing. Gotta get it right.
Yes.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Well, it's great to have you here, especially because I think the type of law that you actually do is going to be super important for everyone to know about. So if anybody has any housing issues, which if you live in New York City,
you're having a housing issue.
You have a housing issue.
Yeah.
Okay. So this segment's going to be super important for us to definitely get to know how you can get in contact with Suzette and maybe just even resolve some issues because there's so much. I mean, the topic of housing on a whole is a huge topic. Especially with our mayor, you know, he's always pushing and lobbying for, you know, affordable housing.
Right.
Which is, of course, I guess kind of goes hand in hand with what you do because a lot of times people are pushed out either because of illegal increases or, you know, there's a certain amount that they're supposed to raise you.
Right.
So I guess we can kind of cover that since we kind of led into that.
We can cover a little bit of it.
Quick facts, though. So the 4%, is that a yay or a nay? Is that factual that they could only raise you 4%?
If you're in rent control and rent stabilized, that's true. But a lot of people in New York City are in housing that's owned by a private person or a corporation or an LLC. In those cases where it's privately owned, there's no cap on what they can raise you. So you might be spending $2,300 a month right now, and they can go to $2,600 next month and threaten to go to $3,000 a month after that. And
even if you have a lease?
Even if you have a lease. But most times, well, if you have a lease, whatever the number is in the lease, that's what you're going to pay. But if the lease ends and now you're month to month, you have no protection in terms of the increase. So and a lot of times when the lease is expired, most landlords don't want to give you another lease because they know that there's some competition for your apartment. So they can increase the rent on a regular basis and kind of force you to leave because most people at some point will leave.
Wow, that is so interesting. I love this topic because something that we all go through. If you rent,
that's right,
in this city, you need to know. There's so many little things that, I just didn't know that. I thought that you're covered, but that's only if you fall under that. So all these management companies,
they're taking advantage.
Especially if you're in Crown Heights, you got a management company that you pay your rent to. That falls under that corporation.
Yeah, and the thing with renting is it applies if you're renting an apartment. It applies if you're renting a room. It applies if you're renting someone's couch. It's all the same. Wow. So I've been involved in cases where people have been evicted from couches because they won't leave.
Well, we're going to go into that. But first, let's kind of take it back a little bit. Who is Suzette Morales now Rutherford? Because congratulations, you are now a newlywed.
Thank you. I am.
Happily married.
I am.
So let's take it back. What's your story?
So my story is I am the daughter of Panamanian immigrants. My mom and dad came from Panama, and I have 3 siblings. And when they got to Brooklyn, it was all about the American dream. You know, everybody wants a house and white picket fence, a great job. But when my parents came here, it wasn't that easy. So my mother had to work several jobs to make sure that her children came from Panama to Brooklyn. She had to make sure they got their citizenship. And then being in a new country, especially when your primary language is Spanish, it's extremely difficult. So she had to learn English on the fly as well as get a job and provide for the family in Panama. So everyone knows the immigrant story. So I'm a product of the immigrant story. But I will say this about my mom is that she was one about education, discipline, and saving. and those are the three things that she instilled in me: education, discipline, and savings. So that's what inspired me to finish college, go to law school, discipline to just do whatever it takes to try and do well, which was one of the reasons I started my practice, and also the reason why I spent a lot of time giving back, mentoring, doing a lot of pro bono work, doing a lot of seminars to educate people about building wealth, especially in America. It's really important.
That's great, and we need to know more about that. I think as a child of immigrants too, you kind of know they come here, and the first generation, well, they kind of lay the foundation.
Right, they do.
But they kind of look for us to kind of do better than they did, obviously, which is what you want to do. But they can't always do as much as they want because they're coming from another country. You got to get settled.
Yes.
Sometimes there's language barriers.
Yes.
There's a whole lot.
A lot of challenges. So I think their thought is, if we're born here and raised here, we should do better because we've seen them struggle for all of the money, the blood, sweat, and tears that they sacrifice for us to have more. And when we don't achieve that, I think a lot of them get very disappointed, because we are their hope, we are their legacy, which, has been very important for me growing up and starting my own business. I remember being young and my mother started a babysitting business, but she didn't get the support she really wanted to. And so I remember going with her to neighbors' homes and picking up little babies and bringing them to the house, to the little studio apartment we had, and decorating the walls and doing all those types of things. So she sparked the entrepreneurship bug in me. Yeah, so
I'm glad she did that, because today, definitely you're successful, you have a practice, and you're still giving back.
Yeah, I do a lot
of that. Which is really important, something that does take a toll because, it's hard to always give back.
Right.
But, I think when you're genuine about it, and housing is such an important topic in the sense that so many people are affected by this all the time that doesn't really matter what your economic status is.
It
you
really
could
doesn't.
still be affected, but
That's
worse if you come from impoverished areas.
Absolutely.
So kind of let's get into that a little bit, so on a day-to-day, typically you're in housing court.
I'm in housing court. So I have my own private practice. A good portion of it is housing. Some of it is consumer debt, estate planning, real estate, bankruptcy, and a hodgepodge of other things. I also do advising on small business entities. If you want to set up a business, I also do that. I do that portion as well. But on the housing side, I spend every day at some point in housing court. Either I'm representing a private client who tends to be mostly tenants. I do very little landlord. It'll be a small landlord, like, an older woman who has a mortgage to pay, that sort of thing. But other than that, I'm in the help center on Mondays and Wednesdays from 3 to 5. I offer free private practice legal services. And the other thing I do, I'm also appointed a guardian ad litem for tenants who are vulnerable in some way. They might have a mental disability. They might have a physical disability. They might be incapable of leaving their home. They might be blind or completely incapacitated, or it's just their whereabouts may be unknown, and the court just needs someone to go out and figure out what's going on with that tenant. So I'm appointed by judges specifically in those cases, and all of those scenarios are extremely challenging.
I bet it could definitely be very, very challenging.
Very challenging.
But we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Stay with us. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel. So Suzette, right before we took the break, you're talking about how your day at court and what you really be doing, and those 2 hours that you spend donating your time. I know how appreciative the people must be for that, because to pay for those type of services, sometimes it's out of your reach, especially in some of our communities. It would not be attainable.
Right.
How does that make you feel to actually be able to give back and share your knowledge with everyone.
Well, I'll be honest with you that when I first started volunteering my services doing pro bono work, I didn't really feel like I was doing as much as I really wanted to do. Because when someone comes into the help center and they sit down, they tell me what their issues are, I have a little bit of time to kind of to listen to all of their issues and try and summarize it and try to get them the goal they're looking for, whether it's through preparing documents or giving them legal advice. And I always feel like I'm falling short, that I don't meet the goal. But my expectations of myself are really high, so let me say that. But the feedback I've gotten from every single client or individual that I've met is that I've been very helpful, and more importantly, I've been very positive. And I guess that before they get to that door in that office, when they're sitting in front of me, it seems like, it's hopeless, nothing's going to work out, and they're at the end of their rope. But I guess after our conversation, I've explained to them the process and that they still have time, they still have options, they feel a lot more comforted. So I feel as though I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing for.
Well, sometimes
people.
Just that little bit of hope. Hope is so important.
It is.
Because when you don't see a way, and sometimes I tell myself not to just look at the whole thing, not to lean on, it brings it back to just what we're taught, I guess, even spiritually, like don't try to look for the whole thing. Sometimes you just have to just let things go naturally.
Exactly.
And it could be a lot. It could
really very overwhelming for a lot of people who come through those doors. By the time they get to me, they might be a domestic violence survivor. It might be someone who has a disabled child. It might be a small landlord. She has a home. She lets someone in to stay in the basement for a few weeks. She's blind. She has no way of completing the documents, and she feels helpless. So there's so many different scenarios, but everyone that comes through the door is overwhelmed by whatever the circumstances are. And a lot of times I have a box of tissues, because I get a lot of people in there that they just want to let it all be revealed. They just want to unburden themselves. So I let them have their moment. I'm also a lay chaplain, so I listen. And try to use that skill set to be with the person in the moment. But it's challenging because I only have a few minutes, literally, because there are 50 people online outside of that door waiting to be seen.
And you've got 2 hours to do it.
I've only got 2 hours.
That's like 2.5 minutes per person.
And it is not enough. It is not enough.
My goodness.
And I always say to my colleagues, if there's any attorneys out there who are interested in volunteering someplace, housing court is a place that needs good people, professional people who just simply care. You can be taught the skill set, but you can't learn how to care about people. You really just can't. You can't learn how to care about people. I fully agree with that.
Because the technical skill set and the law and what everything is, that could be taught. You go to school, you get your graduate, and you do it.
That's right.
But if you have no compassion, it's just like some doctors don't have what they call bedside manner. If you don't have a good, sometimes you can be a great doctor on paper, but you don't like their personality, or they're brash, or they just come off
too abrupt. They're cold. Yeah.
Like they just don't care. You need that sense of warmth. I think with anything that you're dealing with like that, you just want to kind of know that the person genuinely does care, but is still capable of resolving your issue.
Exactly. And having the tough talks. Some people will come through the door, and I have to be realistic with them about what all their options are. And it may not be the best set of options for them, but at least now they have someone to dialogue with, to ask questions, to sit down with and say, well, Miss Morales, Mrs. Rutherford, which direction do you think I should go? And I will give them my best judgment.
When do you think is the best time to come seek out help? Because sometimes, especially again, I love my people, but we procrastinate.
Yeah.
We will see a letter, we'll see the first letter, the second letter, the third letter. And then you'll be like, okay, it's just got real now. Yes.
I say that it's never too early. I have people that come in